Hello, it's Willie from the Ozarks, and we're ready for May the 23rd's lesson, which is lesson 143 in A Course in Miracles Workbook for Students Year Journey. Okay, thank you all for joining me. Lesson 143, My Mind Holds Only What I Think with God. It's a review lesson for lessons 123 and 126. Which was, in quiet I received God's word today. All that I give is given to myself. All right, so we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about that. Yesterday's lesson was 142, being the same, my mind holds only what I think with God. We want to really be bathing in that idea. For this 10-day stretch, we'll want to have said it during the waking hour, every hour. My mind holds only what I think with God. And pause for a moment and settle into that realization, and then remind yourself of the associated for that day's reminder of which yesterday was, I thank my Father for his gifts to me. Let me remember I am one with God. I thank my Father for his gifts to me. Did that have a little more deepness and a little more settling in? Did you feel more at one with that when you recognize that, let me remember I'm one with God? If you could see yourself as one with God and that you're thanking yourself, wow, that you're thanking yourself and God is thanking you. And just so that you know, it was Jesus saying that he was one with God that got him crucified. And so, the world doesn't maybe take real kindly a lot of times to this idea, thinking that you're so holy, but we're all so holy. And we need to rest in that. My mind holds only what I think with God. All right. Okay, before we go any further, let's I want to look at the review again. And I want to just read through it in a way put a little emphasis on a few things as we go through it. And then we'll talk about our lesson for today, maybe even talk a little bit about how yesterday's lesson went. But before we do, I just transplanted these out of little smaller pots because I still don't have space. I'm going to put these sugar baby watermelons worked up. So, I had a little 4 tray and they were cramped, and give them a little more room, put them in some compost in a little bigger pot, sugar babies. And these are just some petunias that I thought looked pretty, little pink petunias. Anyway, it's time to be putting all your stuff out like this. I used to just plant the seeds, but around here the ground's pretty hard, at least if you plant it in native soil, and it tends to crust over and hard for those seeds to pop out. My teacher used to just put compost over the seeds when he'd plant them. But I've got to where I'm planting most everything in pots and then just take it out. But this year I didn't have a greenhouse and a nice place to store things, so I bought a lot more plants than what I would have liked to have done. But, always got next year. And what did I say we always have next year? Well, we're eternal. We always have a new creation that will be creating. So, we need to be in a hurry and never get her done. We just always at peace. I might even say it's already been done. Everything's, that's something that's hard to understand as humans, isn't it? Saying that it's already been done, everything's just perfect the way it is, and that it never changes. What do you mean it never changes? Well, time is the illusion, and distance, space. Okay, lesson 142, just yesterday's again. Let's do all 3. My mind holds only what I think with God. 2 days ago, forgiveness is the key to happiness. Forgiveness offers everything I want. And then yesterday, my mind holds only what I think with God. Did you take that 5 minutes in the morning and again at night? And after you spent 5 minutes primarily tuning your thoughts in with the reality that your mind holds only what you think with God, then from that new state of awareness, you would have said, forgiveness is the key to happiness. Forgiveness offers everything I want. Or yesterday you would have said, I thank my Father for his gifts to me. Let me remember I am one with God. And today, my mind holds only what I think with God. And we'll do that in the morning for 5 minutes, and then in the evening for 5. And then after that, we'll not take more than a minute or a moment, or as many moments as you want for this next, because he says that's what time was made for receiving these gifts from the Lord of hosts, as he talked about in the review. In quiet, I received God's word today. We've talked a lot about the importance of being still and quiet, and that's our eternal home with God our Father's. It's his, God's eternal home, the quiet. And all that I give is given to myself. Wow, we learned that, didn't we? Now we're just going to really try to stabilize that in the way we think. All right, let's go look into the review again. Now that we've talked about it a little yesterday and the day before, let me just read through it. I won't make too many comments, but I will emphasize some of the things by the voice inflection and my pausing and trying to communicate something. If I feel like I need to say a word or two about it, I may do so. Now we review again, this time aware we are preparing for the second part of learning how the truth can be applied. The second part of learning how the truth can be applied. First time we had to learn all the ideas. Now we're going to learn them as a whole more, with the associated idea linking them all together of my mind holds only what I think with God. Today we will begin to concentrate on readiness for what will follow next, such as our aim for this review and for the lessons following. Thus we review the recent lessons and their central thoughts in such a way as will facilitate the readiness which we would now achieve. Second paragraph. There's a central theme that unifies each step in the review we undertake, which can be simply stated in these words: my mind holds only what I think with God. This is a fact and represents the truth of what you are and what your Father is. It is this thought by which the Father gave creation to the Son, establishing the Son as co-creator with himself. My mind holds only what I think with God. It is this thought which fully guarantees salvation to the Son, for in his mind no thoughts can dwell but those his Father shares. Lack of forgiveness blocks this thought from his awareness. Yet it is forever true. Okay, so when you lack to forgive, or what I like to think of as, holding unforgiveness. When you lack, with your lack of forgiveness, look what it does. It blocks this thought that my mind holds only what I think with God from his awareness. For in his mind no thoughts can dwell but those his Father shares. Lack of forgiveness blocks this thought from your awareness. Yet it is forever true. 5. Let us begin our preparation with some understanding of the many forms in which the lack of true forgiveness may be carefully concealed. Because they are illusions, they are not perceived to be but what they are. Defenses which protect your unforgiving thoughts from being seen and recognized. There's a lot there. Because they are illusions, they are not perceived to be what they are. And what are they? They're defenses which protect your unforgiving thoughts. And what are they protecting them from? From being seen and recognized. Their purpose is to show you something else and hold correction off through self-deception made to take its place. Their purpose, your unforgiving thoughts, is to show you something else and hold correction off through self-deception made to take its place. 6. And yet your mind holds only what you think with God. Your self-deception cannot take the place of truth. Your self-deception cannot take the place of truth. No more than can a child who throws a stick into the ocean change the coming and the going of the tides, the warming of the water by the sun, the silver of the moon on it by night. So do we start each practice period in this review with readying our minds to understand the lessons that we read and see the meaning which they offer us. You know, when that little boy's throwing the stick in the water, I said little boy, little child. I just had a picture of a little boy, seeing myself actually playing in the tide. But I'm not changing. The tide's going to keep doing. Oh, I might have had an infinitesimal effect on it, huh? Just like I made a little effect on its temperature in a microgram, but in a general sense, it's no effect. And the same thing for the silver of the reflection of the moon on the water. That reflection's going to come whether he's in the picture or not. Oh, he might make some ripples and make it have a little unique look, but that reflection's still coming no matter what. So what we want to say is, so do we start each practice period in this review with readying our minds to understand the lessons that we read and see the meaning which they offer us. Begin each day with time devoted to the preparation of your mind to learn what each idea you will review that day can offer you in freedom and in peace. Open your mind, and clear it of all thoughts that would deceive. And let this thought alone engage it fully and remove the rest. My mind holds only what I think with God. My mind holds only what I think with God. He wants us to open our minds and let that idea fill it. Clear it of all thoughts that would deceive. And let this thought alone engage it fully and remove the rest. My mind holds only what I think with God. Let go of every other thought other than my mind holds only what I think with God. We're going to get really good at that over these next 10 days. We're going to find a place in ourselves where we think this way, that this is us. This is our identity. We're going to identify with this part of ourselves that we tend to have been trained out of, or he says we deceived ourselves out of knowing it by the practice of not holding love, withholding it, for unforgiveness. You know, the lack of forgiveness has blocked this awareness that my mind is only what I think, or my mind holds only what I think with God. 5 minutes with this thought will be enough to set the day along the lines which God appointed and to place his mind in charge of all the thoughts you will receive that day. Okay, we're basically saying we want God's thoughts to be in charge of all of our thoughts when we say my mind holds only what I think with God. I like that. 5 minutes with this thought will be enough to set the day along the lines which God appointed and to place his mind in charge of all the thoughts you will receive that day. They will not come from you alone, for they will all be shared with him. And so each one will bring the message of his love to you, returning messages of yours to him. So will communion with the Lord of hosts be yours, as he himself has willed it be. I love that. It's where so will communion with the Lord of hosts be yours, as he himself has willed it be. And as his own completion joins with him, so will he join with you who are complete, as you unite with him and he with you. Paragraph 10. After your preparation, merely read each of the 2 ideas assigned to you to be reviewed that day. Then close your eyes and say them slowly to yourself. There is no hurry now, for you are using time for its intended purpose. Okay, this is where we, after our 5 minutes of preparation in the morning and in the evening, then we're going to do what time was made for. And we're just going to say those 2 lessons for the day slowly and receive the gift they have for us, and take as little or long as you want. Time was made for this very thing, to receive God's gift. There is no hurry now, for you are using time for its intended purpose. Let each word shine with the meaning God has given it, as it was given to you through His voice. Let each idea that you review that day give you the gift which He has laid in it for you to have of Him. And we will use no format for our practicing but this. 11. Each hour of the day bring to your mind the thought with which the day began, and spend a quiet moment with it. Each hour of the day bring to your mind the thought with which the day began, and spend a quiet moment with it. So whatever we do in our longer meditation in the morning and then again in the evening, we want to do a micro dose of it during the day. You think about this as we're getting our main understanding in the morning and in the evening, when we take a more time that we want to spend. But during the day, when doing our other things, there's no reason why you can't spend as much time at any one of your hours, but He's not asking for you to do that. If you feel led to, by all means, follow your guidance. But all He's saying is take a moment and settle into the same idea that you took 5 minutes to settle into, but this time just take a moment, a minute maybe, or half a minute. My mind holds only what I think with God. And then from that, even while you're doing something else, perhaps, you don't necessarily have to stop what you're doing. If you're walking somewhere or going to washing some dishes, say it while you're doing your other chores. And then bring back to memory the idea for the day, which today is, in quiet I receive God's word today. All that I give is given to myself. So each hour of the day, I want to read that one more time. Each hour of the day, bring to your mind the thought with which the day began, and spend a quiet moment with it. Then repeat the 2 ideas you practiced for the day unhurriedly, with time enough to see the gifts which they contain for you, and let them be received where they were meant to be. We add no other thoughts, but let them be the messages they are. We need no more than this to give us happiness and rest and endless quiet, perfect certainty, and all our Father wills that we receive as the inheritance we have of Him. Wow. No need, that last sentence again, we need no more than this to give us happiness and rest and endless quiet, perfect certainty, and all our Father wills that we receive as the inheritance we have of Him. And the last paragraph. Each day of practicing, as we review, we close as we began, repeating first the thought that made the day a special time of blessing and of happiness for us, and through our faithfulness restored the world from darkness to the light, and through our faithfulness restored the world from darkness to the light. And from our faithfulness, we've been faithful, we're living the life of faith. And through that faithfulness to God, knowing that our mind holds only what I think with God. And whatever that the lesson for that day is, it's helping us to be restoring the world from darkness to the light. Or excuse me. Each day of practicing, as we review, we close as we began, repeating first the thought that made the day a special time of blessing and of happiness for us, and through our faithfulness restored the world from darkness to the light, from grief to joy, from pain to peace, from sin to holiness. See what your faithfulness can do? It can return you to heaven and keep you there. God offers thanks to you who practice thus the keeping of his word. God offers thanks. God's thanking us for being faithful to his word. God offers thanks to you who practice thus the keeping of his word. And as you give your mind to the idea for the day, again before you sleep, his gratitude surrounds you in the peace wherein he wills you be forever, and are learning now to claim again as your inheritance. That last sentence one more time. And as you give your mind to the idea for the day, again before you sleep, his gratitude surrounds you. Feel his gratitude surrounds you. His gratitude surrounds you in the peace wherein he wills you be forever, and are learning now to claim again as your inheritance. So today, my mind holds only what I think with God. In quiet, I receive God's word today. All that I give is given to myself. My mind holds only what I think with God. In quiet, I receive God's word today. All that I give is given to myself. My mind holds only what I think with God.